The spaceport on Arendor 5 was alive with movement. Ships of every shape and size hovered, landed, or zipped past in controlled chaos. Aliens of all colors, sizes, and shapes moved among humans, negotiating trades, exchanging news, or simply watching the spectacle. Some wore robes that shimmered like liquid metal. Others had wings or multiple arms. The sounds of engines, voices, and distant alarms filled the air. Captain Relan Kale, a young human diplomat, walked carefully through the crowd. He had seen many alien species before, but there was one who caught his attention instantly. She stood near a balcony, observing the comings and goings with a calm, almost regal presence. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes shone like polished crystals. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, moving slightly as if it had its own will. Around her, guards formed a subtle circle, ensuring no one approached too closely. This was Princess Serena of the Lyrians, a species known for their intelligence, beauty, and political influence across multiple star systems. She was famous not only for her royal status, but also for her strategic mind. Many humans had heard tales of her brilliance, but very few had ever been close enough to meet her. Rylan felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He noticed she was holding a small device in her hand, something that projected tiny holographic images. Curiosity sparkled in her eyes as she rotated it carefully. Rylan recognized it immediately. It was a human holo communication device. Only humans used them, and rarely outside our own worlds. Rylan's heart skipped a beat. She is curious about this, he thought. Maybe I can start a conversation. Taking a deep breath, he approached slowly. He wanted to appear confident but not threatening. The crowd seemed to part slightly, as if sensing the unusual moment. "Princess Serena," he said politely, bowing his head slightly. "I see you are examining a human device. May I show you how it works?" Serena's eyes turned toward him, sharp and assessing. A small smile tugged at her lips. "A human, daring enough to approach me," she said softly, her voice like musical chimes. "Most would never try." Rylan bowed again, smiling nervously. "I have no intention of causing trouble. I only wish to share knowledge." The princess studied him for a moment. Her guards remained alert but allowed him to stay. "Very well. Show me," she said, tilting her head. Rylan extended his hand, and the device floated slightly above his palm. He activated it, and a small hologram of a spaceship appeared, spinning slowly in midair. "This device allows communication over vast distances," he explained. "Humans use it to send messages and images instantly, even across light years. It is simple but very effective." Serena leaned forward, slightly intrigued. "It is fascinating. I have seen Lyrian devices, but they are far more complex. Yet yours is elegant in its simplicity." Rylan felt a flush of pride. "Thank you. We focus on practicality and ease of use. Sometimes simplicity can be more powerful than complexity." She studied him, then the device again. "I must admit, humans are more interesting than I expected. You adapt quickly, yet you are bold. Many species fear direct contact." Rylan smiled, encouraged. "We humans like to learn, and sometimes curiosity leads to boldness." A small silence fell between them. Around them, the spaceport moved with its usual chaos, but it seemed to fade in importance. Rylan found himself looking into her crystal eyes, and he realized she was watching him just as carefully. Then, gathering courage, he did something even more daring. "Princess Serena," he said, his voice steady, "would you join me for dinner? Just a simple meal. I would be honored to host you and share human food." The crowd seemed to shift slightly, as if sensing the audacity of the question. Even the princess's guard stiffened. Serena blinked once, then twice. Her expression shifted from curiosity to amusement. "Dinner?" she repeated, her voice light, almost musical. "A human dares to ask the Lyrian princess to dine. Most would never attempt such familiarity." Rylan held his ground, aware of how unusual his request was. "I understand this may seem bold, but I believe sharing a meal can teach more than formal words or diplomatic speeches. It is a way to understand each other." For a moment, the princess was silent. Then she laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "You are confident, human." "Perhaps too confident," she said, tilting her head. "But there is something refreshing in that. I accept your invitation, but only if the meal is human style. I want to taste your culture, not imitate it." Rylan's heart leapt. "It will be my honor, princess. I promise you an experience you will not forget." She nodded, her silver hair catching the sunlight. "Very well. I shall see what humans find worthy of their own praise." With that, she gestured for her guards to step back slightly, and they began to walk together toward the docking area where Ryland's ship was waiting. Along the way, Serena asked questions about human life, our planets, our customs, and our small daily rituals. Ryland answered with patience, humor, and detail, careful not to overwhelm her with information. At one point, she stopped and pointed at a small market stall selling strange fruits from different planets. "What are these?" she asked. "Those are imported foods from various human colonies," Ryland explained. "Each has its own taste and story. Humans like to experiment with flavors and textures. Sometimes it is unusual, but it is part of our curiosity." Serena picked up a small, brightly colored fruit. She examined it, then tasted it carefully. Her eyes widened slightly and she nodded. "Interesting. Humans truly do value variety and sensation. I see why you find your own culture appealing," Ryland laughed softly. "It has its moments. We try to make the simple things enjoyable. Even a meal can be an adventure." As they boarded Ryland's ship, Serena glanced around the sleek human design. It was clean, functional, yet inviting. She noticed small personal touches. A tiny garden module, books stacked neatly, and a hollow projector ready for entertainment. "You humans are different," she said thoughtfully. "Your technology is practical, but also personal. There is warmth in it which many species lack." Ryland smiled, feeling proud. "We try to balance efficiency with comfort. Life is short and we want to enjoy it while we can." They reached the small dining area aboard the ship. Ryland had prepared a simple human meal: roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and a stew with spices carefully blended. The aroma filled the room, unusual but pleasant for an alien nose. Serena observed the table with interest. She had never seen humans eat in such a relaxed way. "You do not sit in rigid posture as Lyrians do," she remarked. "Your customs seem free, comfortable." "That is part of the experience," Ryland said. "Eating is not just about nourishment. It is about sharing, enjoying, and learning about each other." They began to eat. At first, the conversation was polite, filled with questions about species, planets, and diplomacy. But slowly the mood shifted. Serena began to ask about human habits, about daily life on Earth, and even about Ryland's childhood. "You were brave to approach me," she said between bites. "Many would not dare." Ryland shrugged lightly. "Curiosity is part of being human. Sometimes it leads to mistakes, but sometimes it leads to opportunities. I wanted to understand you, not just your title." Serena's eyes softened. "You speak honestly. That is rare among those who seek favor or advancement. Perhaps humans are more genuine than I expected." They laughed together at small jokes, mispronunciations, and misunderstandings. Ryland explained human table manners, and Serena playfully misused them, causing a small, polite mess. She laughed at herself, and for the first time, Ryland saw the princess not as royalty, but as someone curious, intelligent, and surprisingly human in her emotions. By the end of the meal, a bond had started to form. Neither of them fully realized how unusual this connection was. Across the galaxy, humans and Lyrians had long been cautious of one another. But here, on a small human ship with simple food and honest conversation, the first threads of trust and perhaps friendship were quietly weaving together. As the stars outside shimmered in the ship's viewport, Ryland felt a surge of hope. This dinner was more than just a meal. It was a first step, an opening for understanding between two very different worlds. Princess Serena looked at him, eyes thoughtful. "You humans are unpredictable, and yet there is courage in that unpredictability. I wonder what tomorrow may bring." Ryland smiled, already imagining it. "Whatever comes, we face it together, one meal at a time." And with that, the first encounter between the human diplomat and the alien princess ended, not with ceremony, not with obligation, but with curiosity, laughter, and the subtle promise of something far greater. After the first meal, Princess Serena lingered on Ryland's ship, her curiosity clearly piqued. The human diplomat had prepared a simple yet thoughtful dinner, showing patience, humor, and care in ways she had not expected from a human. She sat quietly, observing the soft hum of the ship's engines and the stars outside, thinking about the unusual evening. Ryland, for his part, tried to remain calm despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling in his mind. He had spent years learning alien cultures, mastering etiquette, and navigating diplomacy. Yet nothing had prepared him for this moment. Dining with a princess whose life was shaped by strict rules and rigid expectations. I must admit, Serena began, breaking the silence, I did not expect humans to care so much about small details. The food, the table, even the way you spoke, it all seemed so personal. Rylan smiled. We believe small details can make big differences. Life is not just about duty or survival. It is also about connection. The princess tilted her head, studying him. Connection. You speak as though it is rare among your people. Why is that? Rylan shrugged lightly. Humans value it, but we are also cautious. Trust is earned, not given, and sometimes we hide behind routines or rules to protect ourselves. But when we choose to connect, we try to do it sincerely. Serena's eyes softened, a rare vulnerability in her usually controlled expression. I have spent most of my life following orders, meeting expectations, and keeping appearances. Few ask what I think or feel. Rylan nodded. Then let tonight be different. No titles, no duty. Just two beings sharing knowledge and stories. For a moment, she was silent. Then with a subtle smile, she said, Very well. I accept your offer, human. But if we are to dine again, I want to see more than just food. I want to understand your culture, the small, simple things humans value. Rylan's heart leapt. It would be my honor, princess. I promise to show you as much as I can, perhaps even more than a single dinner can hold. Serena laughed lightly, the sound soft and musical. Bold words? I will hold you to them. The next evening, Rylan prepared another dinner, this time incorporating more human traditions. He showed Serena the art of making bread from scratch, kneading dough and shaping it with care. He explained how humans shared bread as a symbol of friendship and trust. Serena watched closely, her hands hovering over the dough, unsure how to interact. You speak of trust through food, she said. Lyrians do not do this. We share messages, alliances, but not simple acts like this. Why is it so important to humans? Rylan smiled. Because we believe in small gestures. They show thoughtfulness and care. They make relationships stronger. Serena nodded slowly, her eyes following his movements. Perhaps there is wisdom in this simplicity. Humans may be messy and unpredictable, but they are sincere. I can see that now. As they worked together, Serena began to relax, laughing at her mistakes with the dough. She had never experienced such freedom. No advisors correcting her, no royal duties pressing down. For the first time, she felt human emotions stir within her. Curiosity, amusement, and even a sense of belonging. Rylan, noticing her laughter, felt a warmth he had not expected. He realized that despite their different worlds, they were connecting on a very personal level. Your laughter is genuine, he said. It is rare to hear someone of your status laugh freely. Serena paused, looking at him. I find it easier to laugh when I am not observed. When I am myself. The evening progressed with more shared experiences. Rylan prepared a simple stew, showing Serena how humans balanced flavors, textures, and aromas. He encouraged her to taste, smell, and even experiment with the ingredients. At first she hesitated, carefully following his instructions. But soon she began adding her own touches, curious to see how her choices affected the dish. This is enjoyable, Serena admitted, tasting the stew. Humans seem to value creativity, even in small tasks. Lyrians focus too much on precision. Perhaps we could learn from your kind. Rylan smiled, pleased. Humans make mistakes too, but we learn from them. Creativity often comes from trial and error. And sometimes mistakes make life more interesting. Serena chuckled. Interesting is a good word. I feel as though I am learning not just about humans, but about myself. Their conversation shifted from food to stories of human life, childhood games, festivals, simple joys and challenges. Serena listened with rapt attention, asking questions about humans' ways of thinking, their values, and how they faced difficulties. Rylan answered honestly, sometimes sharing personal anecdotes, sometimes explaining the reasoning behind human traditions. At one point, Serena looked at him thoughtfully. You humans seem resilient. You face dangers and challenges, yet you do not give up. Even in small matters, your courage stands out. Rylan's expression softened. We have to be resilient. The universe is vast and life is unpredictable. Courage and persistence are necessary, not just for survival, but for progress. Serena nodded slowly. I see that now. Perhaps that is why your species survives, thrives, and dares to reach out beyond your worlds. As the evening drew on, Ryland suggested they take a short walk around the ship's observation deck. Stars stretched infinitely in every direction. Planets shimmered like jewels, and distant ships moved through the void. Serena marveled at the sight. "It is beautiful," she said softly. "Humans call it the universe, yet it feels like home to many species. I have seen many worlds, but this is different." "Peaceful," Ryland nodded. "We humans often look at the stars and wonder what is out there. Exploration is part of who we are. Curiosity drives us, and sometimes courage lets us reach beyond what seems possible." Serena turned to him, eyes glowing faintly in the starlight. "Curiosity and courage. Yes, I see it now. Humans do not only survive, they strive. They create, connect, and adapt. Perhaps I misjudged your species before." Ryland smiled humbly. "It is easy to misjudge. But once you understand us, you might see that humans are capable of great things." For a moment they walked in silence, simply enjoying the quiet and the view. Serena's expression was softer than ever, thoughtful and almost introspective. Ryland could sense that she was beginning to see him not as a human diplomat or a visitor, but as an individual, someone genuine and trustworthy. "Ryland," she said finally, breaking the calm, "I did not expect this evening to be so enlightening. I came to understand your food, your customs, but I'm learning more about your heart, your way of thinking." "It is refreshing." Ryland felt a warmth in his chest. "I am glad, Princess. That was my intention. I wanted you to see humans as more than just diplomats or strangers. We are curious, brave, and sometimes messy, but we care." Serena smiled faintly, a hint of something playful and daring in her gaze. "You are bold, human, to share all of this so openly, to invite me into your world without fear. It is unusual, and yet I appreciate it." Ryland bowed slightly, unable to hide his happiness. "I believe that understanding starts with honesty, and sometimes boldness is the key to opening doors." She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she laughed softly. "Boldness, yes. That word fits you perfectly. Perhaps I misjudged humans in general, but I certainly misjudged you. You are unlike anyone I have met." The two of them returned to the dining area, finishing the last portions of the meal. Serena looked around at the carefully prepared space, noting the personal touches once more, the small plants, the books, the subtle decorations that made the ship feel lived in and welcoming. "You humans make spaces feel personal," she said thoughtfully. "Lyrians do not. We build for efficiency, for beauty, for protocol, but not for warmth. Perhaps that is what draws me here, the feeling of comfort." Ryland smiled. "Humans believe that comfort and connection are part of life. Even in the vast emptiness of space, we try to create small havens where we can be ourselves." Serena's gaze softened. "Then perhaps we are learning from each other. You show me courage, warmth, and honesty. I show you curiosity and an openness to understand. Perhaps this is the start of something, unusual but valuable." Ryland nodded. "I hope so, Princess. I truly do." The evening ended with laughter, small shared jokes, and a quiet sense of connection. Serena's reaction had been unexpected. She had accepted the invitation not out of duty but curiosity and interest. And Ryland had discovered that sometimes boldness and sincerity could bridge the gap between species, creating a connection that neither could have predicted. As she prepared to leave, Serena turned to him. "Ryland, this was enlightening. I want to continue learning, not just about humans, but about you. I hope that future dinners will bring more than food. I hope they bring understanding." Ryland smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment and hope. "They will, Princess. I promise you this is only the beginning." And with that, Serena left the ship, her mind racing with thoughts, her heart lighter than it had been in years. For Ryland, the evening had been a success beyond measure. The first dinner had been more than a meal. It had been a step toward trust, friendship, and perhaps something even more extraordinary. The morning after their second dinner, Ryland's ship hovered quietly in orbit above the Arendor 5 spaceport. The stars gleamed in the blackness of space, and the planet below shimmered with the light of cities and landing pads. Ryland was preparing for the day, reviewing schedules and messages, when a sudden alert flashed across the control panel. "Warning, unauthorized fleet approaching," the ship's AI announced in a calm, mechanical voice. "Multiple vessels entering restricted airspace." Unknown intent. Ryland's stomach tightened. He quickly activated the main display, showing a formation of sleek, dark ships moving toward the spaceport. They were fast and organized, clearly military in nature. The symbols on their hulls were unfamiliar, a faction not known in any diplomatic records. Before he could process more, Princess Serena entered the control room, her usual calm replaced with a faint tension. "What is happening, Rylan?" she asked, her crystal eyes scanning the display. "It seems we have unexpected visitors," Rylan said carefully. "They are armed and moving fast. We do not know their intentions yet, but we must act quickly." Serena's expression sharpened. "This is a threat to the spaceport. My people, the humans, everyone—" She paused, taking a deep breath. "We must protect them. What can we do?" Rylan thought for a moment, analyzing the data. "We cannot fight them alone, they have numbers. But we can buy time and alert the port authorities. My ship has defenses and I know tactics they will not expect." Serena nodded, her previous apprehension replaced by determination. "Then let us act. I will assist where I can. Even if I am a princess, I am not powerless." Rylan admired her courage. "Good. First, we must activate shields and take a strategic position. I will create a diversion, draw their attention, and give the port time to evacuate civilians." The princess watched as Rylan moved swiftly, issuing commands, coordinating ship systems, and planning maneuvers. His focus, calmness, and ability to act under pressure impressed her. Humans, she realized, had a different kind of bravery than Lyrians, more instinctive, practical, and sometimes daring beyond caution. As the hostile fleet approached, Rylan activated his ship's cloaking field for a short burst, allowing him to move undetected closer to the fleet. "We need to split their attention," he muttered. "They will expect a frontal approach, but we will use surprise," Serena observed, fascinated by his strategy. "You are brave to face them directly," she said softly. "Most would hide, follow orders, or wait for reinforcements. You humans, you act." Rylan glanced at her, a hint of a smile crossing his face. Sometimes action is better than hesitation. Lives depend on it. As they neared the fleet, the alien ships detected their presence and began to respond. Beams of energy shot toward Rylan's ship and explosions rippled in the distance. He twisted the controls, dodging attacks with precision and timing. Serena's hands gripped the console, watching the maneuvers, realizing that she was witnessing human ingenuity firsthand. "You are amazing," she whispered. "Your reflexes, your thinking. They are unlike anything I have seen." Rylan kept his eyes on the incoming ships. "Thank you, Princess. But focus now. I need you to alert the spaceport authorities and coordinate evacuation signals. They must move civilians quickly." Serena nodded, her fingers flying across her console. Holomaps displayed escape routes, and she sent out encrypted signals to the port, guiding ships and personnel to safe zones. Her Lyrian training allowed her to act quickly, but she relied on Rylan's guidance to prioritize human needs. The battle continued, with Rylan using a combination of decoys, short bursts of cloaking, and targeted attacks to confuse the enemy fleet. Each maneuver required split-second timing, and each success allowed more civilians to escape. Serena observed the calm focus in his eyes, noting how humans could remain composed even under extreme pressure. At one point, a large vessel broke formation and targeted Rylan's ship directly. A blast hit near the hull, sending vibrations through the cabin. Rylan gritted his teeth and fired a precise countermeasure, disabling the ship's engines without destroying it. Serena watched wide-eyed. "You did that, without destroying them?" she asked in amazement. Rylan nodded. "I want them alive to study later. We do not kill without reason. Sometimes restraint is the most powerful action." Serena's respect grew. She had seen many battles in her life, but human courage combined with ingenuity was something different. Humans did not just rely on power, they relied on creativity, quick thinking, and an instinct to survive while protecting others. As the last civilians evacuated, the hostile fleet began to retreat, confused and outmaneuvered. Rylan's strategy had worked, and the spaceport was safe for now. He let out a slow breath, feeling the adrenaline fade. Serena turned to him, her eyes shining. "I have underestimated humans. Your bravery, your skill. You are extraordinary." Rylan smiled modestly. "We are capable when we need to be, but we also rely on teamwork. I could not have done this alone," she nodded, a faint smile appearing. "Then we make a good team. You act with courage and intelligence. I act with observation and knowledge. Together, perhaps we can face even greater challenges. Rylan looked at her, realizing that this unexpected event had changed everything. The princess he had dined with only 2 nights ago was now standing beside him in a real crisis. She was not just an observer, she was a partner, someone capable of thinking, acting, and contributing in meaningful ways. As the threat receded into the distance, alarms ceased and the spaceport resumed normal operations. The humans and aliens who had evacuated returned cautiously, grateful that their lives had been spared. Reports of the battle spread quickly, and whispers of a human diplomat who had outsmarted an unknown fleet reached distant corners of the spaceport. Serena walked to the viewport, watching the stars where the enemy had vanished. She was silent for a moment, reflecting on the events of the evening. Humans are unpredictable, she said softly. You think creatively, act boldly, and do not fear to face danger head-on. I have much to learn from your kind. Rylan stood beside her, and humans can learn from others too. Your observations, your calmness under pressure, they are valuable. Together we complement each other. For the first time, Serena allowed herself to feel something beyond duty, admiration, respect, and even a hint of trust. She had seen Rylan act without fear, not because he was reckless, but because he understood responsibility. This was unlike any human or alien she had met before. As they returned to the ship's interior, Serena asked quietly, Rylan, why did you risk yourself so freely? Why not wait for reinforcements? He looked at her, eyes steady. Because action matters. Waiting does not always save lives. Sometimes courage, creativity, and quick thinking are the only options. I could not stand by while others were in danger. Serena considered his words. Humans value life in ways Lyrians often do not. You act for others, not just yourself or your kind. That is remarkable. Rylan felt a quiet pride, but he remained humble. We try. We are not perfect, but we do our best. And sometimes doing the right thing is more important than following rules or waiting for approval. Serena nodded, silently impressed. She realized that the dinners and shared meals were just the beginning. Humans were not only interesting in their culture, they were extraordinary in their courage, resilience, and morality. The rest of the evening was quiet, but filled with reflection. Rylan prepared a simple meal again, not as a ceremony, but as a way to calm nerves and share a human tradition after the chaos. They ate slowly, savoring not only the food but the sense of safety that had returned. I am learning much, Rylan, Serena said softly, not just about humans, but about courage, connection, and the value of small actions. You have shown me that even one individual can make a difference. Rylan smiled, reaching out slightly. And you have shown me that understanding, observation, and wisdom can guide us even in the darkest moments. Together we can do more than either of us alone. For the first time, both felt a true partnership forming, built not only on curiosity or politeness, but on shared respect, courage, and the unexpected bonds that could arise when humans met other species with openness and sincerity. As the stars outside twinkled, Rylan and Serena knew that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast and unpredictable, but humans had a way of rising to challenges, and Princess Serena was beginning to see the extraordinary potential of one brave human, and perhaps the promise of friendship that could change the galaxy. The spaceport of Arendor 5 was quiet now. After the sudden arrival and retreat of the hostile fleet, life slowly returned to normal. Civilians resumed their routines and merchants cautiously reopened their stalls. But aboard Rylan's ship, the atmosphere remained reflective. Princess Serena stood by the observation window, gazing at the stars. The events of the previous day weighed heavily on her mind. She had witnessed a human's courage firsthand, his ability to think clearly under pressure and his willingness to risk himself for others. For a royal princess accustomed to protocol, strategy, and order, the experience had been both surprising and enlightening. Rylan entered the observation room quietly, holding 2 cups of steaming tea. I thought you might like this, he said, offering one to her. It helps after long, stressful hours. Serena accepted it gracefully, her fingers brushing his briefly. Thank you, Rylan. Humans have small comforts that carry great meaning. Tea is simple yet calming. I understand now why you value these small rituals, Rylan smiled. We often focus on small things because they bring balance. Courage, planning, and action matter, but so do peace and reflection. Serena nodded, taking a slow sip. The warmth spread through her, and for a moment she felt more human than royal. I have spent most of my life in control of my image, my duties, my people. But I have rarely had the chance to be myself. With you, Rylan, I feel something different. Freedom. Even if it is only small. Rylan leaned against the railing, watching her with interest. That is part of being human, too. We try to balance duty with personal growth. We fail sometimes, but the effort matters. Freedom is not given. It is experienced and earned. Serena looked at him, eyes thoughtful. Your species values choice and individuality. Lyrians, we value tradition, obedience, and honor. Sometimes I feel constrained by expectations, by what others believe I should do rather than what I desire. Rylan nodded. Then perhaps we can learn from each other. Humans can gain wisdom from observation and reflection, and Lyrians can benefit from courage and individuality. Sharing perspectives is a step toward understanding. For the next few hours they spoke quietly, exchanging stories of their lives. Serena recounted her childhood in the royal palace, the rigid routines, the endless lessons in etiquette, diplomacy, and leadership. Rylan shared his experiences growing up on Earth, where curiosity, experimentation, and mistakes were encouraged. You speak of mistakes as lessons, Serena remarked, her tone both curious and skeptical. Lyrians are taught to avoid errors at all costs. Why do humans value mistakes? Because mistakes teach us more than success, Rylan explained. A failure shows what works, what doesn't, and how to improve. Courage to try, even when failure is possible, is what allows humans to grow. And sometimes mistakes lead to unexpected discoveries. Serena considered this. Perhaps I have been too cautious in my own life. Too concerned with appearances, with perfection. Humans are brave in ways I have rarely seen. Rylan smiled. And Lyrians are wise in ways humans sometimes forget. Observation, patience, and reflection. You balance courage with foresight. Together we could learn a lot from each other. She sipped her tea, her expression softening. I feel it less alone than I ever have. Talking to you, sharing ideas. It feels like a small rebellion against my own rules. And yet it is a good one, Rylan chuckled. Rebellions of thought are often the most powerful. They open doors that were previously closed. After some silence, Serena stood and moved to a small table where a human board game lay. She studied the pieces curiously. You humans have many pastimes, even in quiet moments. We focus mostly on work, learning, and strategy. Play is rare. Rylan picked up a piece and handed it to her. Games teach strategy, risk assessment, and planning. But they also teach patience, adaptation, and sometimes laughter. Shall we play? Serena hesitated, then nodded. They began the game, and soon she was laughing softly as Rylan explained the rules and teased her for misplacing pieces. For the first time, she was not a princess or a diplomat. She was simply a being exploring, learning, and enjoying the moment. You humans find joy in the simplest things, she said, smiling. It is refreshing. Even the smallest action can hold meaning. Rylan smiled back. Exactly. Life is made of moments. Courage, trust, understanding, laughter. These moments shape us as much as grand victories or royal decrees. As they played, Rylan shared another human tradition, storytelling. He told Serena a simple story of a human explorer who faced unknown dangers, failed, adapted, and ultimately succeeded. Not through strength alone, but through perseverance, wit, and the support of friends. Serena listened, captivated. Humans are persistent. You value community and courage together, not separately. That is admirable. Lyrians focus on individual brilliance, but not always collaboration in the same way. Rylan nodded. Humans survive by connecting, helping, and learning from each other. We can be messy and chaotic, but our bonds are strong. And sometimes, a single person's courage can inspire others. The princess fell silent for a moment, considering his words. You have shown me more than I expected. Not just about humans, but about choice, courage, and trust. I want to continue learning from you. Perhaps even apply it to my own life. Rylan's eyes brightened. That would be an honor, princess. Humans and Lyrians together could accomplish much, if we share understanding and courage. Serena's expression softened further. I have always felt trapped by expectation. But now I see that bravery is not only about physical action. It is also about speaking, choosing, and thinking differently. You've opened my mind, Rylan smiled. And you have reminded me that observation and wisdom are powerful. Humans sometimes act too quickly, too boldly. Your calm and thoughtfulness can guide courage. making it more effective. The two of them spent the remainder of the evening exploring the ship, discussing philosophies and sharing stories of their respective worlds. Serena asked questions about Earth, its people, and how humans faced adversity. Rylan shared his experiences with honesty, explaining both triumphs and failures. As night deepened, Serena found herself thinking about her royal life differently. Perhaps there was more to leadership than obedience and perfection. Perhaps courage, connection, and humanity could be part of it. "Rylan," she said finally, her voice soft, "I never thought I could feel this way. Curious, free, and safe. All at the same time. With you, I feel that possibility. You show me that life does not have to be only rules and duty. There can be meaning even in small moments." Rylan nodded, touched by her words. "That is what humans value. Courage, connection, and finding meaning even in simplicity. And you have shown me that wisdom, patience, and reflection are just as important." Serena smiled faintly. "Perhaps this is the start of something new for both of us. Humans and Lyrians learning from one another, not as strangers or diplomats, but as equals." Rylan's heart swelled with hope. "Exactly. This is only the beginning. Together we can face challenges, learn from each other, and perhaps change the way our worlds see one another." The stars outside sparkled, endless and eternal. For Princess Serena, they symbolized opportunity, choice, and a future she had never dared imagine. For Rylan, they represented connection, courage, and the unexpected friendship that had begun over a simple dinner. As the night deepened, the two continued their quiet conversations, sharing ideas, dreams, and hopes. The princess had begun to see humans not as strangers or threats, but as capable, courageous, and surprisingly warm beings. And Rylan had discovered that even the most regal and seemingly distant alien could find trust, curiosity, and friendship when approached with honesty and courage. For both of them, the evening was more than a lesson, it was a revelation. Humanity had not only survived in the stars, but it had also inspired change, curiosity, and hope in even the most unlikely hearts. And as the galaxy continued to spin outside their ship, Princess Serena and Rylan knew that the next steps of their journey, together or apart, would be guided by courage, understanding, and the bonds they had begun to forge. The next morning, the Arendor 5 spaceport shimmered under the twin suns. The chaos of the previous day's emergency had been replaced by calm, yet whispers of what had occurred spread quickly. Civilians spoke of a human diplomat who had bravely faced an unknown fleet, guiding lives to safety with skill and courage. Even the Lyrians in the port discussed the event in hushed tones. On board his ship, Rylan prepared for another dinner with Princess Serena. Unlike the previous evenings, this one carried a quiet sense of purpose. The meals, small gestures, and shared stories had already created a bond between them. Today, Rylan hoped to go further, not just as a host, but as someone willing to share a part of himself openly. Serena arrived promptly, her silver hair glinting in the soft glow of the ship's lights. She gave a faint nod, the smallest smile on her lips betraying her usual composure. "I trust your invitation is not merely for ceremony," she said lightly. Rylan shook his head, smiling. "It is genuine, Princess. Tonight I want to share more than food. I want to share a human tradition, one that reflects courage, trust, and connection." Curiosity sparked in Serena's eyes. "And what tradition is that?" she asked, tilting her head. Rylan gestured toward the table, where two simple plates of food were laid, along with a small, elegant box. "Humans have a tradition of sharing what matters most, not just objects, but intentions. This box contains a symbol of trust. Opening it is a choice, and accepting it reflects understanding and connection." Serena studied the box carefully, her fingers hovering above the lid. "I have seen humans use symbols, rituals, and gestures to communicate, but this feels more personal than I anticipated." Rylan nodded. "It is. Tonight is not about royalty, titles, or politics. It is about honesty, courage, and choice. What you decide is entirely yours." For a long moment, Serena remained silent. The calm she usually carried gave way to a flicker of uncertainty. She had spent her entire life making decisions carefully, often influenced by advisors, traditions, or fear of judgment. This choice, simple yet profound, was entirely hers. Finally, she took a deep breath and opened the box. Inside lay a small, intricately carved pendant, a human symbol of trust and friendship. Its simplicity and care reflected the meals they had shared, the games they had played, and the quiet lessons of humanity Rylan had offered. Serena held it in her hand, turning it over slowly. This is delicate, thoughtful. It speaks without words. Rylan reached out, keeping his tone gentle. It is meant to. Humans believe that trust is shown, not only spoken. I wanted you to see that courage, honesty, and understanding can be symbolized in even the smallest gesture. The princess considered this, her mind racing. She thought of the past dinners, the shared laughter, the late-night conversations, and the courage Rylan had shown during the sudden fleet attack. She realized that each small act, every explanation, every story, every shared task, had built a bridge between their worlds. I understand, she said quietly, her crystal eyes meeting his. This is not a trivial matter. Humans have shown me bravery, thoughtfulness, and honesty. And you, Rylan, have embodied all of these. I see now why your species is respected, even admired. You are remarkable. Rylan felt a warmth he had not expected. And you, princess, have shown me the value of reflection, wisdom, and observation. You remind humans that courage is not only action, but also thought and understanding. A silence fell between them, not awkward, but full of meaning. Outside the viewport, stars glittered endlessly. Within the quiet space of the ship, something unspoken had shifted. A bond deeper than curiosity or politeness. Born of shared experiences, bravery, and trust. Finally, Serena spoke, her voice soft but steady. Rylan, will you join me for dinner? Not as a diplomat, not as a stranger, but as someone willing to share your heart and intentions. Rylan's heart skipped. He had never imagined that the question he had first asked, one that had seemed bold and uncertain, would now be reflected back to him, with honesty and purpose. Princess, I would be honored, he said sincerely. She nodded, a faint smile forming. Then we dine, not for ceremony nor for politics, but for understanding and trust, for friendship and perhaps something more. As they shared the meal, their conversation flowed easily. They spoke of the galaxy, of planets and civilizations, of victories and challenges. But now the talk carried a personal undertone, thoughts, hopes, and reflections on courage, choice, and connection. Serena laughed at a story of Rylan's childhood misadventures, recalling human stubbornness and curiosity. Rylan smiled, amused at her candid reaction to the tale. The warmth between them was no longer formal. It was genuine, human, and unexpectedly comforting. At one point, Serena paused, looking at him with a curious expression. Rylan, have you ever considered how humans impact the galaxy? Our actions may seem small, but bravery and courage can inspire far beyond one species. Rylan nodded. We humans may be small in number, but we believe in action, responsibility, and morality. We try to set an example, not for power, but for understanding. One person can change a situation. One act of courage can inspire many. Serena's expression softened further. Then perhaps we are alike. I have often been constrained by protocol, but tonight I see that courage and honesty are universal. Your actions, your choices, they remind me that even one individual can change more than expected. Rylan smiled, feeling the bond deepen. And your wisdom, princess, teaches me that reflection, patience, and understanding are just as important. Together, perhaps we can bridge worlds, show others the value of trust and courage. As they finished the meal, a gentle silence fell. Serena held the pendant once more, feeling its weight, not heavy in mass, but in meaning. Rylan, she said finally, her voice clear, I have considered your invitation, your trust, and your courage, and I find myself wanting more. Not as duty, not as obligation, but as a choice. Rylan leaned forward slightly, heart pounding. Princess, what do you mean? Serena's crystal eyes shone with quiet certainty. I choose to join you. Not because I must, not because I am told, but because I want to. I want to share more meals, more stories, more experiences. I want to see what humans see, feel what humans feel, and explore the galaxy with someone I trust. Rylan felt a rush of relief and joy. Princess? Serena smiled faintly, interrupting him. Yes, Rylan. My answer is yes. He reached out, gently taking her hand in his. It was a gesture of trust, courage, and shared understanding. Then we move forward together, he said softly. As friends, as partners, and perhaps as something more. No titles, no expectations, just us, learning and facing the universe together. Serena nodded, a quiet happiness in her eyes. Yes, together. Outside, the stars shimmered, indifferent to the small drama unfolding aboard a single human ship. Yet within the ship, something profound had changed. Two individuals from vastly different worlds had discovered trust, courage, and the simple power of choice. They had shared meals, laughter, stories, and even danger, and in doing so had found a bond that transcended species, protocol, and expectation. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But for the first time, Rylan and Serena faced it with a quiet confidence. One human and one Lyrian united by understanding, bravery, and connection, ready to explore the stars together. As the night deepened, they stayed in the dining area, talking quietly, laughing softly, and planning future adventures. Each story shared, each question asked, each gentle gesture had strengthened their bond. They were no longer diplomat and princess. They were companions, equals, and perhaps the beginning of a partnership that could change the way their species viewed one another. Rylan thought about the first time he had asked her to dinner, the boldness that had seemed so uncertain at the time, and now, after shared experiences, shared meals, and shared courage, he realized that the universe had answered in the most unexpected and extraordinary way. Princess Serena, once constrained by duty and expectation, now felt the freedom of choice, trust, and friendship. She had accepted not just a meal but a connection, a bond, and the opportunity to see the universe through the eyes of someone brave, genuine, and extraordinary. And as the twin suns of Arendor 5 set, casting a golden glow across the deck, Rylan and Serena sat together, their hands still lightly touching, and the galaxy felt a little smaller, a little warmer, and a little more hopeful. Tonight was not the end, it was the beginning. A beginning of trust, courage, and the remarkable possibility of what humans and Lyrians could achieve when they chose to understand one another. And in that quiet moment, aboard a human ship amid the endless stars, the princess's unexpected answer had created a story that would be remembered, not for politics, power, or ceremony, but for courage, honesty, and the simple, profound act of saying yes.